had the mic on mute. So, hey, can y'all hear me? I know y'all can see me, but can y'all hear me? It says there's 0 viewers. Well, that's super disappointing. All right, so I'm just gonna. I guess I'll just hang out a bit until people tune. Okay, I see 4 viewers are in the chat right now. Uh, okay, Ryan, all good. Thank you for the thumbs up. Spider's Prime, welcome to the chat. Welcome to this live stream. And to the other 2 people watching, welcome. This is my live watch party for Godzilla King of the Monsters, as in the 1956 American version of the 1954 Japanese film, not the sequel to the, as of today, 10-year-old 2014 Godzilla. Wow, 10 years today. And I did not plan at all for this watch party to coincide with the 10-year anniversary of Gareth Edwards' Godzilla. But yeah, those are coincidence. That's a coincidence right there. So for those of you who are watching, you may be new to this. 4 years ago in 2020, when the lockdowns were like in full effect, I did live watch parties for all the Godzilla movies from 1954's Godzilla or Gojira all the way up to 2019's Godzilla King of the Monsters. And then when Godzilla vs. Kong came out on Blu-ray 2021, I did a live watch party for that. And in honor of Godzilla's 70th anniversary, I thought, hey, why don't I do a live watch party for the American versions, or at least the 4 noticeable ones. So this month in May, we got Godzilla King of the Monsters right here. Next month in June, we got Gigantus the Fire Monster, which, that's going to be a rough, it's going to be rough to watch, but I think with all of you, it might be a fun live stream. But also Godzilla Kong the New Empire comes out on Blu-ray next month, so we got that as well. So 2 Godzilla live streams next month. Then July, it's going to be the American version of King Kong versus Godzilla, and then in August, we'll round things out with Godzilla 1985. And I actually have no idea when Godzilla -1 is supposed to come out on Blu-ray in the States, but when it does, you bet I will be doing a live watch party for it. So I tried to set up, before we get actually started, I tried to set up an alert box so I could see y'all, the chat, in this little section down, that little empty space below the social media logos. Let me just briefly see if I can fix this. I think this is set up for, it looks like this is more set up for Twitch than anything. Huh. Okay, I think that was yeah, I think that may have been, I think this is more set up for Twitch. Oh, wait, chat box. Hold on, folks. I know, look, I promised we would get to Godzilla King of the Monsters. For the other 3 people who just joined, welcome. Hang on. 755 by 920. Okay, that works. Wow, thank you, Ryan. So I know we're less than 6 months away from the 70th anniversary, but do you have any plans to make video or something on the actual 60th anniversary of of Godzilla. I do have a video planned. It's just a matter of will I be able to do it? Because I want to try to make videos in honor of like the anniversary of something, or like on Star Wars Day I plan to review the Bad Batch, but that was when my camera got crapped out with the black screen of death. So I hope hold on, folks. I promise we will get to the movie soon. I just need to. I'm just going to readjust the chat box here. Oh, that's too much. That's perfect for the width. And then for the height. Okay. Somebody say something. Like, just type something in the chat at random. Okay, I think that should be good. Zach Briggs says, spoiler alert, Steve Martin lives. Yeah. For those of you who've never seen this movie, Steve Martin is not in Godzilla King of the Monsters because I think by this time he started working at Disneyland. Um, so, but that's the name of Raymond Burr's character in this film. And yes, like he's actually named Steve Martin. Spiders Prime says Gamera. Can I do a review for Godzilla, the animated series from 1978? Oh, the Hanna-Barbera one. I think that's really hard to track down. That one might be tough, but I do. All right, you know, since it's out in the ether, I promise we will start soon. Since it's out in the ether, I did. My plan for Godzilla Day of this year is to review Godzilla the series, the animated series based off the Roland Emmerich movie, because I know a lot of you have been requesting that. I have the DVD. I've seen a quarter of the episodes. I just need to finish the whole series, and it's like 42 episodes, I think, so it shouldn't be that hard to do. But that's my plan for Godzilla Day: review Godzilla the series. Okay, so thank you, Gabriel Hall, Spiders Prime, and Ryan. I never know how to pronounce your last name. I apologize for that. Cernak, for testing the chat. Now we can actually get started. So if you have the Blu-ray for this, I'm using the Criterion Blu-ray. I have the Criterion Blu-ray for Godzilla. If you have the Blu-ray, that really helps. But I believe the movie's still available on HBO Max, or Max as it's called, for whatever stupid reason. I'm still calling it HBO Max, just like I'm still calling Twitter, not whatever Elon Musk wants us to call it. So yeah, those are the two best options. Godzilla King of the Monsters is available for free on YouTube, but it does have ads, so that might make watching this a little trickier. And, oh, give me 1 second. Let me grab the remote. Hold on. Okay. Oh, that's great. I need to set up the mic for my controller. Or the, uh... Sorry, I really should have tested this. It's also a Tubi. Okay, I think, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Why can't I set up the mic? Oh, this is the problem of having a YouTube. This is the problem with having a live stream. This is the problem with having a setting up a YouTube live stream right after you clock out of work, or at least like you're on your way to work and rushing back home to do this. Um, Hold on. Ay, ay, ay. I apologize, folks. Um, yeah, because I know, because I have to wear headphones because it's YouTube is very stingy about copyright still, and if I just play the entirety of Godzilla King of the Monsters and it's audible on the live stream, then that wouldn't really sit well with YouTube. Hold on, folks. I wonder if it's okay for you to leave movie suggestions to you so you can review them. I'm not opposed to it. Let me restart my PS5. Maybe that'll fix things. Yeah, yeah. In the meantime, while I'm setting this all up, why don't we just make this an informal Q&A? In the meantime, while I just fix the settings on this. And you know what? While we're doing that, let me see if I can add a new. This is too much work. um, all right, so yeah, let's just do a formal Q&A. Informal. I'm sorry, informal Q&A while I figure out this PS5 business. I know the American version of Return of Godzilla isn't that good, but at least Raymond Burr tried to take Godzilla seriously. Oh, he was a trooper on that movie, yeah? Because everyone else involved with that, like the original intent was they wanted to try to make Godzilla 1985 a full-blown comedy, yeah? And when Raymond Burr was brought on, he basically said, that's not happening. If I'm gonna be a part of this movie, I'm taking it seriously. So you gotta really give him credit for just standing firm about that. Uh, Hold on. Let me grab my remote for the TV and let me see if I can mute um, the TV and maybe that'll help. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, guys. Yeah, this is not how I planned to start out this Let me see if I can pull out my. Ooh. Uh, what disc is the American version in the 8-disc Criterion Collection art book? It's the first disc. Like with the standalone release for Godzilla 1954, King of the Monsters is packaged in that disc as bonus material. So if you have if you have the Showa era collection, it's disc 1, and it's under supplements. So for those of you, if you haven't like set up yet, this delay is actually a good time to actually get set up. So again, I do apologize, everyone. All right, everyone. So I tried these headphones. They still don't work. So I'm going to try to power off the controller and just wait a bit and see if that works. So, okay, turn off the controller. Yeah, so how y'all doing? Huh? How's everyone in the chat doing? Trying to make small talk so there's not a lot of dead air in this broadcast. Yeah, this is technically my Friday. Even though it's Thursday, I don't work Fridays and Saturdays for the time being. So this is a good time to. Razorbike says Steve Martin is in this. Can't wait to see what wacky hijinks he gets into with Godzilla. I'm sure. I don't understand how that wasn't a movie that happened. Okay, turning on my controller again. No, still doesn't. God. Why isn't this? Why doesn't this work? Am I doing Godzilla Kong the New Empire? Am I getting Godzilla Kong the New Empire in digital Blu-ray? I actually just pre-ordered it from Amazon, so that'll way it'll get in sooner than later. Because with Best Buy not selling Blu-rays anymore and Target giving up on Blu-rays, that's depressing. So getting it through Amazon, and then it's just a matter of which movie would you guys prefer to see me do a live stream of first? Godzilla Kong or Gigantus the Fire Monster? Ay, 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 what is wrong with this controller? This sucks, huh? Hold on. Okay, so it's not my headphones that are the problem. It's the controller for whatever reason. This, Okay. We almost did get a Godzilla comedy from Canon in the 80s. We did? I mean, I know there were several attempts to make an American Godzilla before Roland Emmerich. And I also know that there was intended to be an American sequel to Godzilla 2000, directed by Joe Dante and starring Bruce Campbell, with all the special effects being done through Toho. So there were a lot of, like, almost Godzilla movies happening. Where's the American version of Raids Again on? I believe Tubi, like with King of the Monsters. So, yeah, but again, being it's Tubi, I think there are ads on it. So that, because I still have the classic media DVD, and that might be a little tricky. Hold on, I am so sorry for this, guys. I'm gonna try looking this up on YouTube and fixing this bullshit. Well, that's useless. Oh yeah, Batman versus Godzilla. That was supposed to be a thing from Toho themselves, which considering that that idea was floating around the same time the Adam West series was going on, like silly Godzilla and silly Batman at the same time would have been fun, but I mean, look, Batman can be Batman all he wants, but he ain't beating Godzilla. I mean, Superman couldn't even beat Godzilla in this run of comics of Godzilla and Kong versus Justice League. Scar King has no shot against the King of the Monsters. Scar King had no shot against Godzilla King of the Monster or Godzilla. I'll mention this when we do Godzilla Kong the New Empire, but no, like that, like my biggest, I don't want to say worry, but my biggest concern, like the big thing I was just like really was why Godzilla and Kong need to team up against Scar King, because Godzilla was untouchable to Scar King. Um, I fixed it. I fixed it. Finally. Okay. Oh my god. Um. So what happened was my the output to headphone setting was on voice chat audio, not all audio. Oh my god. And that took us this I was supposed to be starting earlier, and we've lost several people. But no, everything is good. We're all fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you? Sorry, Force a Habit. I had to quote Han. It was good to feature a ton of practical jokes and in-jokes about Japanese giant monster films. I know Godzilla wasn't in New Empire as much as I hoped, but what we got of him was kick-ass. Yeah, again, I do wish... I think that movie could have benefited by just being a straight-up Kong movie without Godzilla. But, got no issues. Okay. Alright, so now, after all that nonsense, after all that bullshit, I want to thank all of you who stuck around for being so patient. And we'll get into this. Pre-production was going well until Golden Globus got the bright idea of instead just making it a generic monster movie. What if instead it was Godzilla? I don't know. Considering how they handled Superman 4, I wouldn't trust Canon to handle Godzilla, because what year was this supposed to... What year was Canon... Before we actually start, what year was Canon supposed to, like, release this movie? Because 1987 was the year that pretty much killed Canon with Over the Top, He-Man Masters of the Universe, and Superman 4, because all those movies Canon spent more money on than their normal movies, and then they all flopped, and that pretty much killed the industry, or not the industry, it pretty much killed the studio. So yeah, what year? I wonder what year that was supposed to be. But anyway, now that we've gotten all that done, let's get into this. I've set up the movie. I've set up the movie. I don't have the timer like I did in my MCU watch party series from 3 years ago. But I've set up the movie. It's going to begin with the Criterion logo. And with that said, I'm going to start playing the movie now. Think between 1984 and 1987. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So this is the first time I've actually... I think the last time I actually watched Godzilla King of the Monsters was... I think when I reviewed it in 2018, or did a updated review for it, because I did a review for Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters in the same video. A trans world release. And that's obviously like just a mesh-up of the Universal logo and the Toho logo, because that's clearly the Toho logo in the background and the Universal globe. It's so funny that back then, when they called this movie Godzilla King of the Monsters, it was just like, oh, King of the Monsters, that's a good way we could sell this movie. And then it ended up being Godzilla's official title. God, the restoration on this movie is really good. I have not watched Tenet. I heard it's actually awful. Or no. Yeah, I heard it wasn't all that good. Of all the Americanized versions of Godzilla, this and 2000 are my favorites. Yeah, 2000's a good American version of that film, which I already did. I did a live stream for that 4 years ago because I preferred over the Japanese version. And there's not enough different about that movie like there is with this and the original Godzilla. Is the king is wait the King of the Monsters subtitle is on the poster for Bride of Frankenstein? Huh. I have to take a look at that poster again. Sucks how the Japanese version of 2000 doesn't end with the Godzilla march, huh? It doesn't, but the Godzilla theme is still there. You know, that they do a really good job most of the time. They do a really good job at like trying to hide what was part of the original film and what was the new stuff made for King of the Monsters. Yeah, Razorbike, that live stream, those live watch parties were 4 years ago, because you know when you're unemployed and the world's in lockdown, you have no choice but just to watch every Godzilla movie weekly. What's my opinion on the new Planet of the Apes movie? Go watch my review. Go watch my review for the movie, but I think my favorite movie of the year. That's a good body double for Emiko, even if it's from her back. Okay, long pause there. Hey, Emiko, Steve Martin's down below. He's not looking like straight ahead of you. Can you imagine going into a casting call for a movie, but they only want to see your backside? And I'm sure those casting calls exist, but that'd be an interesting audition to go to. Man, those like I wish those types of planes were still around. I mean, not the ability to smoke a cigarette on a plane, but the ability to recline your seats, curtains. Uh, yeah, planes now are just so cramped up. It's so interesting that they made the decision to have this movie be entire flashback. Like even when the movie opens, it's a flashback. Um, I do think that editing the aftermath of his rampage to the beginning of the film isn't a horrible decision and does work. Now, if you prefer it or not, is a different story. I mean, considering that this movie is like to the original Godzilla what the theatrical Justice League was to Zack Snyder's, where they're two vastly different they're technically the same movie, but there's so many differences that you could categorize them as different films. And I think for the sake of this version, having it be told through flashback was a interesting narrative choice. Yeah, that's obviously a still. And in fact, I actually found out I think it was through David Callett's commentary on the Criterion collection, that like this movie was so influential, yet every American monster movie that came out in the wake of King of the Monsters did not do the flashback stuff. So that's fascinating. And I wonder if all these actors are Japanese. I have to look at the credits on IMDb. Because I certainly know that America, like back then, even like, because I know Americans have an issue where it's like, oh, we're just looking for like just some standard Asian person in a movie. So I wonder if all these Asian actors for King of the Monsters are Japanese. Because I know James Hong voices Ogata and Serizawa, and he's not Japanese. But I'm talking about like all the actors that aren't doing voiceover. You'll miss this level of trying to integrate the American scenes with the original Japanese film when we get to King Kong versus Godzilla in 1985. Yeah, yeah, and yet those two are still better than Gigantus the Fire Monster. All right, you'll have to excuse me, folks, because I did have to make food, so I apologize if I'm eating every now and then. Yeah, the thing is, like, since this movie was technically considered to be the first Godzilla movie for the U.S., at least until 2004, um, you would just think that, oh, yes, Raymond Burr shot all these scenes in Japan. Like that shot there, when the two of them enter the room, for a brief second, I thought that that was from the Japanese version. But then you have to, like, again, they do a really good job at integrating the new scenes with the original film. But now that you have access to the Japanese version, it's pretty easy to tell the way, like, the cinematography kind of gives it away. Like, if you were to ignore the fact that Raymond Burr and the original Japanese actors like Momoko Kōchi and Akira Takarada are not in the same scene as him, you can tell that the way Honda shot the Godzilla and the way Terry Morse shot King of the Monsters is very different. Um, I love how they voice over the American soldiers in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, but it didn't sound much better. Honestly, I mean, so for Godzilla King vs. King Ghidorah, like from the Heisei, from Biolante up until Final Wars, Toho did these cheapy dubs from Hong Kong that I still think sound better when they dub American actors. I do think that they're better than how they actually sound in the Japanese film, except in Final Wars, but still pretty bad. But no, the dubbing for the Seahawk crew in the American version of King Kong versus Godzilla is like the dub work for those for the submarine crew in King Kong versus Godzilla is better than the original voices in the Japanese version. I really love how, like, I mean, earlier in the chat, like somebody mentioned how Raymond Burr took Godzilla 1985 seriously, but he really does a good job in this movie. Yeah? Like he's not phoning it in, and he doesn't have that mentality of, oh, it's a monster movie. I also think it's bold that there's so many scenes where the Japanese, where from the original movie, where the characters are speaking Japanese and they don't subtitle it. That's a bold. I think for a movie from the mid to late 50s, that's a bold choice. Did they tend to hire actors that looked American who lived in Japan? I think that may have been the case, with the exception of what was I gonna say? With the exception of Nick Adams in Astro Monster and Frankenstein versus Baragon, and Russ Tamblyn in War of the Gargantuas. Okay, so this scene with Dr. Yamane, this actually takes place much later in the movie, yeah? Again, really, like, right down to the art direction and production design, they do a good job at trying to make the sets look just like in the Japanese version. My favorite Godzilla roar. Um, I love the hate the what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, yeah. Spider's Prime brought up in this scene. You can actually hear Takashi Shimura say Gojira. But you know, Americans in 1956 didn't catch that. They didn't understand Japanese back then. Anyway, I really love the 1954 roar, and the one they used for Godzilla minus one. But I like the Millennium roars quite a bit also, because there's so much power in those roars. Again, the fact that they don't dub these actors in English, such a bold decision. They don't dub them or even subtitle them. Like, that's something I've grown to appreciate about this movie, especially considering when it was made. Okay, so right there, because of Raymond Burr's narration, they do imply that this character dies, even though we see him later in the movie, and he survives in the Japanese version, only for Godzilla to basically kill him during the storm. Huh? But yeah, I would love to have, because this movie did get a theatrical release in Japan, I think in '57. So I would have loved to see how Japanese audiences reacted to this. Yeah, that's not a helicopter interior, especially for a helicopter that size. But whatever. Interrogated. Honda isn't mad at this version. Um, I don't know what. I don't think I've ever heard Ishiro Honda's opinion on this version of the movie. Yeah, because like, because I know this version kind of softens the. Yeah, he's like this version of the movie softens the anti-nuclear theme, but it is responsible for kicking Godzilla like significance off in worldwide. Like without this version of Godzilla, Godzilla probably would not be a pop culture icon like he is today. Okay, you can hear audio from the original Japanese version. Watch how they awkwardly throw in Godzilla um, as one of the Japanese actors is talking. That was so awkward, but so funny. Okay, so something I never mentioned whenever I talked about the original Godzilla, because I was so familiar with King of the Monsters. The very first time I saw the 1954 movie in theaters, I thought the like journalist that goes to Odo Island, I thought he was the main character for so long because throughout the first 15 minutes, Ogata and Emiko are pretty much absent. So I just thought, oh, uh, yeah, Raymond Burr was a journalist. We followed him. This journalist character must be the main character. Um, yeah, Raymond Burr smoking in bed. Nothing could go wrong here. You know, for a stormy and rainy night, it's awfully dry. Where Steve Martin and Tomo are sleeping. Yeah, because that's the same character that washed up on Odo Island, and the fact that this this movie assumes that like says that he died when he washed up on shore, it takes away the haunting nature of that. Yeah, he survived Godzilla's initial attack, but Godzilla pretty much came back to hunt him. Honda found the alterations amusing, stating that his film was trying to imitate American movie monsters. Or American monster movies. I mean, yeah, I mean that's a good point because if there's any movie that's like a direct, like the closest to be a Godzilla inspiration or an inspiration for Godzilla, it would be the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Huh? Yeah, again, this movie does a really good job at integrating uh, the American scenes with the original film. Huh? Although I will say, in addition to Godzilla, like in addition to that main character like being dead in this version, um, the fact that they input Godzilla's roars in this and in the original boat attack kind of makes it. It kind of takes away the mystery. I mean, we know it's a giant monster, but I don't think it's as frightening. Yeah, that character, that journalist. When I first saw Honda's film or Honda's version, I thought he was the main character. It wasn't until we first get really introduced to Serizawa that I just remembered. Oh yeah, Ogata and Emiko are technically the main characters because Steve Martin's not a character. He's just an observer. What am I chowing down on? Just a pasta salad. Phenomenon. I gotta say, one thing that kind of like, it's not off putting, but something that's slightly distracting is there are points where we hear the voices of the original Japanese actors, and then the dubbing, the actors doing the dub work sound nothing like the original Japanese actors. Yeah, Dr. Yamane, look up at Steve Martin. Yeah, the backside of this actor they got for Yamane, he looks a little skinnier than Takashi Shimura, but not too bad of a job. Again, it is awkward that he's just kind of looking at Steve Martin's chest. So yeah, like I don't know if it's the frame rate, but it's clear, like it's very obvious, like in terms of the way this movie shot, like the difference between the Japanese footage and the American footage. But you know, like up until we got access to the Japanese version, we didn't really know the difference. Yeah, again, that moment they don't dub Ogata over. They don't subtitle him. It's kind of bizarre, but again, bold. That's the last time I'll talk about that. This is the movie that introduced me to Godzilla, so it holds a special place in my heart, despite falling in love with the 1954 original when I finally saw it on Blu-ray from Criterion. So the Criterion release was the first time. Well, first of all, Justin Toner, welcome to the stream. But that was the first time you saw the movie. Because the first time I saw it was at the New Beverly. So I saw Gojira for the first time in theaters. And being so familiar with King of the Monsters, I'm like, oh, I know this movie. But then actually watching the original cut terrified me. And I did that as a double feature with the original Mothra, or at least the Japanese version of Mothra. I remember first seeing this version of the movie in 2012 along with the 1933 King Kong on Turner Classic Movies. Oh, nice. Um, okay, here's a question from Anthony Antigua. Antigua, I hope I pronounced that last name, but welcome to the chat if I didn't see you before. Uh, Selena says hi, welcome. Uh, anyway, the question is, what would Scar King look like if he was in the Peter Jackson Kong remake? I think he'd probably look a little more. They'd probably make him a more realistic looking orangutan. Because that's pretty much what Scar King was. He was like a mutated, balding, anorexic orangutan. How close did minus one overtake the original as your favorite Godzilla film? I will say this: minus one has the better human characters, but I've been reading the Ishiro Honda biography written by Steve Rifle and Ed Gajewski, yeah? And like understanding Ishiro Honda as a person, has made my love for the 1954 film that much stronger. So, so I mean, minus one's a close second, but the 1954 film still reigns supreme. Yeah, well, I wonder this moment here. I wonder what the Japanese reaction to it was when Tomo says it's safer up on the hills, and yet we see everybody running up with weapons, like they're ready to fight. But like the mindset is like, oh, there's a giant monster coming. It's probably safer up. It's probably safer up the hill. There he is. Yep. That that puppet makes me laugh. Like I know this movie is more like this Godzilla's movie is definitely more serious, but the eyes on the puppet, just how they kind of look bug-eyed, crack me up. Hello, white man. That's the only thing. Again, a good like even though that's obviously the same shot from earlier when Godzilla's roaring at Emiko. I just like it's a funny notion that like Godzilla sees a white man, he's like he just roars at him. I don't know. Watching the original cut of King Kong versus Godzilla and then the American cut um, is like eating a nicely cooked steak and then being slapped in the face. Yeah, that one I'm not looking forward to revisiting. And again, I think it's more or less like the fact that they replaced all of Ifukube's music in that film that bugs the hell out of me. But again, I think it's better. I would take it any day over Gigantus the Fire Monster. 2 million years ago. Yeah, somebody might want to check Dr. Yamane's science degree because the dinosaurs were not around 2 million years ago. But it's the 50s. Paleontology was not the way it was back then. Boy, 400 feet tall. That's a giant ass monster. Um, that's taller than the MonsterVerse Godzilla. Because I think Godzilla in Godzilla versus Kong is about like 390 feet tall. Phenomenon. So yeah, they do mention the hydrogen bomb, but it's again, it's not as prominent. Yeah, because they just cut out the entire debate between the two politicians on whether or not info about Godzilla should be released to the public. And then they cut out the scene about the woman who was worried about nearly who nearly escaped the atom bomb from Hiroshima or Nagasaki and was worried about having to relocate because of Godzilla. I think it's funny that America crapped the bed with the 1998 Godzilla because the American version of Godzilla 2000 is better than the Japanese version. I mean, it is. I mean, it's still technically the same movie. It's just a little tighter and I don't know. Like I don't dislike the Japanese version of 2000, but the American version is the better one. Um, I've come to the conclusion that none of the Americanizations of Godzilla films had any maliciousness behind them. It's just that some of them fail horribly doing so. I think the biggest crime, like, because there were a lot of people. I think okay, really briefly, I think this is probably the best body double for any of the Japanese actors for Serizawa. Yeah, that's not too bad, huh? I mean, the body double for Serizawa here is has much shorter hair than Akihito Hirata, but not a bad one. You know, the real tragedy is I'm just imagining that Serizawa doesn't really care for Steve Martin, which I don't know. It's just kind of funny that Serizawa keeps blowing Steve Martin off. But but of course they have to do that because you can't have you can't have Serizawa and Steve Martin in the same frame. Um, Hoping we hear about when Godzilla Minus One is released on Blu-ray here in the States soon. I'm just gonna make this prediction right now. I think it's going to be released through the Criterion Collection because there were talks that Janus Films was working with Toho to get it released, and you know Toho has a good relationship with Criterion, so I'm not gonna put money on this, but I'm betting that because it's the 70th anniversary of Godzilla, Criterion's going to announce a release of Godzilla Minus One for November, which the original Godzilla was released on November 3rd, which is Godzilla Day. Oh, the thing I was going to say about the American Godzilla movies, like a lot of people have criticized this version for like kind of I guess having an agenda in the sense that I don't remember exactly what it is. Something involving like 1950s politics in America that I'm way too young to understand. But they basically some American critics have scrutinized this movie of having some sort of agenda. And I'm like, no, not really. It's just they kind of toned down the nuclear themes that the Japanese version had. But when you look at Godzilla 1985, that movie had a right wing agenda by just making the Soviets flat out bad guys by intentionally launching a missile into Japan. And again, reminder: this is James Hong doing the dub work for Serizawa, who, for those, I mean, I'm sure James Hong. I'm sure y'all know who James Hong is. You've seen him so many times as a character actor in Everything Everywhere All at Once. He voices Mr. Ping in the Kung Fu Panda movies. So you've clearly, y'all should know who he is. Where did you hear that Janus Films got the rights to Shin Godzilla? Because okay, say right there. Sorry, really briefly. Um, like you heard briefly Akihito Hirata's voice, and then James Hong's voice, and then Momoko Kochi's like voice briefly, followed by the actress who's dubbing her over. Like it's kind of weird that they switch back and forth. For as much praise as I gave this movie for not subtitling, for as much praise as I gave this movie for subtitling, for not subtitling or dubbing over certain scenes with the Japanese actors, it is kind of weird to hear their original voices side by side with the actors that dub them over. Um, it's wild knowing that is James Hong doing the dub work. Oh yeah, and in Gigantus the Fire Monster, which we'll get to next month, George Takei does some dub work in that movie. That's one of the things that I'm going to talk about when we get to Godzilla 1985, but that actually isn't why it was changed at all in the American cut. In fact, some of the heads at New World were pretty liberal. I wouldn't doubt that, but like it was the Cold War, it was the Reagan eras, and I mean, Ronald Reagan, I'm just like, fuck that guy. Yeah, that like you heard Momoko Kochi said hi, which is yes in Japanese. So it's weird that they didn't dub her over there. From a weekly news live stream. Um, okay. Well, I mean, I'll believe it when I see it for Shin Godzilla. Um, but it's been a while since Funimation released it, so maybe I don't know. We'll see what happens. And I know that there was a and I know that what was it? Um, I know there's a black and white version of Shin Godzilla. So if Criterion actually release did get the rights to Shin Godzilla, then maybe they could release the black and white version. And I'm predicting that if Criterion does release -1, that they'll include minus color also. It's so funny that you mentioned that because Reagan's stance is exactly what the cut of 1985 is parodying. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that movie in August. Like, unfortunately, unlike my 2020 live streams, I'm not going to be doing these weekly because there's only 4 movies I'm tackling in terms of the Americanized Godzilla movies. Um, so it's just going to be like one every month from now until August, with the exception of Godzilla Kong: The New Empire. It's so funny that this theme used to be like the military march, but it just kind of integrated into being the Godzilla march. Okay, getting back to another earlier chat uh, comment. I hope Criterion releases the Heisei film soon. I don't think that's ever happening. Like, I know, like, I don't know who has the home media rights for the Return of Godzilla and Biollante, but I know Sony still has. Maybe Sony still has the rights to the movies from 1991 to 2004. So we'll see what happens. I don't think that's ever gonna happen. Okay, in this part coming up, there's gonna be another instance where okay, right there. We heard Yamane. We heard the dub actor who voiced Yamane at first, and then we heard Takashi Shimura's voice. Now listen to Emiko's dub actress, and then no Momoko Kochi. See, like hearing Momoko Kochi's voice and then the actress dubbing her over immediately. It's a little jarring. How often do I watch Godzilla movies on my own time? Not enough. Not enough. Apparently. I mean, when I was editing my review for Godzilla Kong: The New Empire, I had Godzilla vs Kong playing in the background. Last year, when I was packing for my trip to Orlando, I just put on Godzilla Final Wars. So I do watch Godzilla movies on my own time, but unfortunately, a lot of my time between YouTube and my work is so valuable that like I don't have as much time as I'd like to just watch Godzilla movies at will. Yeah, every I may have said this before, but every shot of Godzilla in this movie, whether it's the American version or the Japanese version, it's just like seared into my brain. Like I know, like I every shot of Godzilla in this movie is instantly iconic. Also, it's pretty convenient that Steve Martin and Tomo happen to be on the exact same mountain the that Ogata and the Yamane family are on. Oh, and I watched 2014 earlier for the 10th anniversary. Nice. Yeah, that movie. I think that movie is so much better than people give it credit for. Um, but no, what the first time I ever saw this version of Godzilla, um, it was the same time I like the Godzilla movie I saw right before seeing Godzilla King of the Monsters was funny enough Terror of Mechagodzilla. Because my parents like I used to live within walking distance of a blockbuster when I was just getting into Godzilla, and we would like rent all the movies that they had available at that blockbuster, and and the same time I rented Godzilla King of the Monsters, it was Terror of Mechagodzilla that I rented as well. I saw Terror of Mechagodzilla first, and then this movie the next day. The changing of the Russians in the cut malicious wasn't a malicious choice to make them seem more evil. It was Tony Randall more or less joking around with 1980s Cold War propaganda. I think that more or less feeds into the problem with Godzilla 1985. Because it's trying to take a relatively serious movie and making it a joke. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know. Again, we'll get to Godzilla 1985 when we get to it. Okay, okay. Look at the window on the left side of the screen when that shot pops up of Steve Martin again. There's a brick wall there. I don't know. I don't think that was. That doesn't look right. But whatever. Based off several interviews, it seemed like the whole turning it into a comedy was an urban legend. Everyone involved talked about taking it seriously when they signed on to do it. I don't know. I don't think I buy that entirely because there's that one redheaded dude in the Pentagon scenes that looks like David Caruso. Like he has a ridiculous Southern accent, and he tries to make jokes at every corner. So I don't know if I buy into that. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't. Again, we'll get to it. I don't know if I buy into it entirely. Um, but yeah, now we're at the big sequence. Not just Godzilla's rampage through Tokyo, but where the point of the movie where Raymond Burr really um, gives it his all in this role. Because Raymond Burr, like, reporting on this whole sequence is one of the most iconic scenes in any 50s monster movie. Which movie do you like the most of these two, The Mask or Happy Gilmore? I will say The Mask because I've never seen Happy Gilmore. I did see Happy Madison for the first time a couple years back, and I really didn't like it. So I don't know how I feel about Happy Gilmore. Yeah, he pisses me off, but again, I think that's an unfortunate side effect of trying to spice up the film for Americans and not them trying to actively ruin the movie. Get the thing about Raymond Burr is like there are three things that people remember Raymond Burr from. Not like three things that you only remember him from, but it's like your first introduction to Raymond Burr usually is, do you remember him from Godzilla King of the Monsters? Do you remember him from Rear Window? Or do you remember him from Perry Mason? Like, because those are, I think those are the three, like, introductions to Raymond Burr for a lot of people. At least, like, again, my generation. Sorry that I paused both the movie and live stream because nature calls. That's fine. So there's a YouTube video that shows like the colorized version of Gojira. Um, I kind of want to see that version. I'm not talking like because I don't know. I'm very iffy when it comes to colorizing black and white movies. Because the footage I've seen, like all the daytime stuff in Godzilla looks so unnatural in color, but the nighttime stuff, like when Godzilla's firing his atomic breath or when the electrical towers are melting, um, that like that all looks pretty good for a colorized movie or for a black and white movie colorized. Do you think Godzilla 1998 did damage to the image and reputation of Godzilla? I mean, it didn't help much. Like for it was pretty much like Michael Bay's Transformers movies when you tell people about how like, oh man, I'm a big Godzilla fan, and then they like their main exposure is the Roland Emmerich movie, they go, I don't get the appeal of this at all. Which again makes me so much more grateful that a movie like Godzilla Minus One exists and that it was such a big hit stateside, because you have so many people who are not Godzilla fans going, I get it now. Do you like Millie Bobby Brown's character in Godzilla King of the Monsters and the sequel? I liked her better in King of the Monsters, as in the 2019 sequel to the 2014 movie. But I didn't like her so much in Godzilla vs. Kong. Oh, rest in peace to that stop motion fire truck. Okay, I just noticed that there were some wires hanging off of Godzilla's stomach in that shot right after the fire truck crashed. One thing I find kind of silly about this whole sequence in this version of the movie is where exactly is Steve Martin watching Godzilla's rampage? Because he's got to be in a pretty secure location for Godzilla to attack his building so late, and for him to get really good views of Godzilla's rampage. It's probably a nitpick, and I'll admit right away that it's a nitpick, but it's something I just find funny. They do add a lot of screams in this version of Godzilla's Rampage. Like that one scream right there of the people in the alleyway. Okay, this shot coming up, this part where Godzilla destroys the cop car, like, there's a sound effect that they add in this version that's not in the original. Like, I could never figure out if that was supposed to be some the officer in the car screaming, or if that was the cop, if that was the siren malfunctioning on the car. It was just like in Return of Godzilla, when Godzilla shoots down a plane with his atomic breath. There's a high pitched sound before the plane crashes in the water, and you're like, is that the sound of the airplane malfunctioning as it goes in for a crash landing, or is that the pilot screaming in agony before it hits the water? I hate people that think New Empire is crap compared to -1. Can't we have both versions of Godzilla? I mean, my New Empire is the inferior movie, but like I said earlier, um, like you can't compare it to -1. Like you have every right to not like the New Empire, but you can't say like, man, I wish I didn't see Godzilla -1 because the bar is so low for New Empire. I'm just like, don't do that. Don't. They are two different movies and two different Godzillas. And the Godzilla's rampage in this movie, it feels like, in comparison to the Japanese version, his rampage here, doesn't it feel a little shorter than in the Japanese version? I guess because they just rearranged so many sequences. Um, like this sequence where Godzilla destroys the clock tower, that happens in the Japanese version. It happens before Godzilla destroys the theater with his stop motion tail. Rotten Tomatoes has given Godzilla vs. Destroya 100%. Do you agree with that rating? I mean, I don't think it's really that. I don't think you can really say. Let me look up how many reviews it has, though. Because remember, Rotten Tomato scores also depend on how many critics reviewed the movie. Man, this scene, watching the Japanese version for the first time and realizing that this reporter is saying, like, he knows that he's going to die, that is so messed up. Um, because I had no idea what he was saying in this version. But and then when you watch the Japanese version, you realize, oh, this dude knows he's gonna die, and he's just saying goodbye, everyone. You're like, that's dark, but not as dark as what's coming next. Okay, so Godzilla vs. Destroya has only 6 reviews. I don't know. I think it's my favorite of the Heisei movies, but 100%. I don't know. Godzilla King of the Monsters is an American reboot of the 1954 one. No, it's an American adaptation, Mega Studios. But welcome to the chat. Yeah, like even though I'm sure Raymond Burr was acting against nothing when he was looking up, but Steve Martin looked terrified. Again, they do a good job at integrating the the Raymond Burr scenes with the Japanese version. Although, considering how much of that building crumbled, it's a miracle that Steve Martin didn't just flat out die. 13 deaths in Godzilla 1954. I feel like it might be more than that, but I haven't kept track. Okay, this scene, because they don't subtitle the mother, like, and her voice is kind of drowned out by Ifukube's score. Like, when you watch this movie for the first time, this version of the movie for the first time, you think, oh, she's just praying, like, please God help us in this horrible time. But then, again, watching the 1954 movie for the first time in a theater and realizing that she's telling her kids, we'll be with your dad soon, you're like, what the fuck? That is super dark. What's going on in the movie now? Right now, Godzilla's at the bridge. Steve Martin has been... what's the word? He's been taken out of commission because Godzilla destroyed the building he was in. And Godzilla just flipped over the bridge. Oh yeah, and that sequence, like, with Godzilla and the bridge, they really did, like, raise the volume on Ifukube's score in that moment, because in the Japanese version, that part is so quiet in terms of music. Now the planes are attacking Godzilla. Man, those, like, considering that this was, like, the very first time Japan has ever made a giant monster movie, the effects on the plane, there were some cheesy shots, sure, but most of the time it's pretty convincing. And it'll show you how much of a master Eiji Tsuburaya was. Oh, all right, Razorbike. Y'all, you have a good night. I do apologize again that the stream started like 30 minutes late and that I had to figure out the issue with this. Hopefully, like when I do Gigantus and Godzilla Kong next month, that I can start the stream sooner than 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right, so now we're back to the present. Um, okay, now Emiko's looking at Steve Martin. Okay, that backside, that double for Ogata looked nothing like Akira Takarada's back. Yeah, this scene, like, I feel bad for whoever died from Gojira, even though this movie is science fiction. Yeah, like the sequence with the mother dying in this version has doesn't have an inkling of the impact that it does in the Japanese version, and Emiko having to break her promise also doesn't have the same impact like it did in the Japanese version. Um, but still, like, even though this movie isn't as emotionally impactful as its Japanese counterpart, it is. I think it's very respectful to the Japanese version. Yes, my two favorite movies of all time are Back to the Future at number one and Godzilla at number two. Again, going from uh, the actress who dubbed over Emiko to Momoko Kochi's real voice is weird. Yeah, because again, this moment doesn't have an inkling of the emotional impact that because it again the Japanese version, you could tell that Emiko is distraught by all the destruction. That she's like, I have to break this promise. A reminder: this is James Hong voicing both Ogata and Serizawa. Because there were only three actors hired to do dubbing for this movie. Yeah. Oh, what's his name? Akira Takarada was only 20 years old when he did the first movie. Oh, thank you, Mega Studios. Yeah, I have a lot of. If you're a Godzilla fan, I have like tons of tons of Godzilla videos. That's a good line right there. You have your fear, which might become reality, and then you have Godzilla, which is reality. And there's the notification on my mini feed on Streamlabs that Mega Studios had subscribed. So thank you. Yeah, how much more of the movie do we have? We got like less than like about 15 minutes of the film left. Yeah, this movie's an hour and this version of the movie is only an hour and 21 minutes exact. Whereas I think the Japanese version runs for 20 minutes longer. And yeah, that choir of girls that was in the Japanese version, and Akira Ifukube is conducting them. Hour and 45 minutes long. Okay, thank you, Mega Studios. Yeah, because they do trim out a lot of because they. 'Cause I feel like this whole sequence this sequence is long, a bit longer in the Japanese version, and then there's so many other like conversations that get cut out of. There's so many sequences in the Japanese version that are shortened in this movie. All right, thank you for joining Mega Studios. Thank you for subscribing, and take care. Oh, my leg is numb. Ah. And this like even in King of the like there's a lot of the anti-nuclear undertone themes that get softened in King of the Monsters, but Sarazawa having to like make the difficult decision about the oxygen destroyer is a rough one, even in this movie. Though I think his death is more foreshadowed in the Japanese version, whereas here it seems like it comes out of nowhere. I think a dream vacation of mine is to spend a week at Godzilla Tower in Tokyo. Yeah, I definitely want to check out the Godzilla hotel that they have in Tokyo. I mean, whenever I go to Japan, because I'm putting that out there in the world. When, not if. Um, I obviously want to explore Tokyo. Um, I also want to try to do Tokyo Disneyland, especially Tokyo Disney Sea, and then go to Osaka and do not only Universal Studios Japan, but also there's that Godzilla zipline attraction that has a whole museum. Um, I've been a subscriber of yours since early 2013 from your old channel. The original Godzilla 1998 review rant will always be golden, and the best Godzilla 1998 rant. Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. Though it was also good to like re-review that movie with a more level-headed perspective. Yeah, the underwater sequence when Ogata and Serizawa are in the water and they just kind of see Godzilla walking towards them. Maybe because it's all murky. That always was that was always kind of creepy. Yeah, Raymond Burr really doesn't have shit to do in this moment here. And he's just kind of like awkwardly staring off into space. But again, for the rest of the movie, he does a really good job. Oh yeah, not I with you right there, Ryan. Not only am I also happy that America got another chance to do Godzilla, but the success of but without the success of the 2014 movie, uh, there would be no Shin Godzilla. There would be no Godzilla minus one, and most likely Godzilla and Kong would never have fought again. Yeah, I know Steve Martin is just watching and hoping for the best, but like compared to other scenes where he's like kind of involved in the movie, he's the least involved in this version. But again, I don't know what much else they could have done. No? You could say that just Steve Martin is still kind of out of it. Sorry, choking on a little piece of pepper. Um, you could make the argument that Steve Martin was just mentally out of it because he nearly died during Godzilla's rampage. Yeah, again, I think like his death was foreshadowed more. His death was more foreshadowed in the Japanese version, whereas here it might come across as a bit of a surprise. Again, like you've all heard Dr. Yamane's voice in the dub. Now this part, we actually hear Takashi Shimura's actual voice when he says Serizawa. Very different from the actor who dubs him. And again, like even in this American version, Godzilla's death isn't something to be celebrated. Like say the death of the beast from 20,000 Fathoms, or the giant claw. But no, it's still like Godzilla's death is still it's still depicted with a sense of tragedy, because Godzilla is as much of a victim of like nuclear weapons as any of the main characters. Yeah, I'm okay. Even in this version, I'm still like, it's still a sad ending. Yeah, I think I even with the Japanese version, I've always I've always like still enjoyed King of the Monsters, but I think I have a newfound respect for this movie or this version of the film. Oh yeah, I forgot the Criterion version actually has credits. And they actually spelled Ishiro Honda's name correctly. Yeah, they actually like, unlike so many other, like when we get to Gigantus and the American version of King Kong versus Godzilla, they misspell the uh the names of the crew. Like Ishiro Honda is Shiro Honda in King Kong versus Godzilla, but no, they actually got the names of the Japanese crew in this version down. Even Eiji Tsuburaya. So it really goes to show you how respectful this version of this Americanized version was to its source material. So yeah, that's Godzilla King of the Monsters. Um, so yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna end the stream right now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, apologies for starting this stream far later than it should have. When we get to Gigantus and Godzilla Kong: The New Empire, I will start on time. Now that I have the whole controller situation fixed and figured out. But until then, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if for whatever reason you're not. Uh, and also, like on the wait, hold on. Okay. Yeah, so make sure to subscribe to this channel if you're not. I also recommend subscribing to, where is it? Right here. Even though it's just a generic YouTube logo, my theme park and travel channel, Alexander Robinson Travel Channel, because I will be off making another video for that channel tomorrow. And then follow me on Facebook, Threads, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Look for my review for Batman Mask of the Phantasm next week. I'll be seeing the new movie If that comes out this weekend. Five. You're hold on. Super Toyota. You're up at 5. You are up at 5:30 right now to watch this stream. Respect. Like that is, wow. Like that is wow. That is dedication. I appreciate that so much. But anyway, yeah, thank you guys for watching. And yeah, next month will be Gigantus the Fire Monster and Godzilla Kong: The New Empire. But which one do y'all want first? So I think you know what? I think here's what we'll do. On my community tab tomorrow, I'll make a poll on which movie you want me to do a live watch party of first. I feel like most of you are gonna vote for Godzilla Kong the New Empire above Gigantus, but just so I don't assume, I'm gonna put a poll up on my community tab tomorrow morning. So keep your eyes open for that. And until then, this is out. Almost said the real Mr. Robinson. Anyway, yeah. Have a good day, good night, good evening, wherever you're watching this from.